Thank you. So we have a truly outstanding lineup here to speak to us on organizational best practices to promote work style reform. And it is my great pleasure to hand over to the moderator, Ms. Nadine Slater, who is a member of our Kansai Women in Business Committee and the founder and executive coach at Excel with Purpose. Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you, Marianne. Konnichiwa. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to be with all of you here today. And I'm honored, in particular, to be moderating this opening panel because we have some great speakers from global companies, both with Japanese and foreign origin. And I think this should really be a very insightful, but hopefully very inspirational panel. So we will just have over an hour to first hear from our three speakers and then discuss with them how they and their company really lead the way to, to change, not just to make it a better workplace, but also to change new mindsets that support and support a more flexible work style to really benefit all, like we've heard about this morning. And we hope, we all agreed, and we hope to be able to have maybe 10 minutes at the end to open the floor, to really allow you to take this opportunity and ask some questions. So please don't be shy at the end. Okay, so without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker today, Ms. Susanna Mäkelä. She's Assistant General Counsel, Corporate External and Legal Affairs at Microsoft Japan. Susanna has a seasoned in-house legal department leader with over 20 years of international experience working with industry-leading companies, including Nokia, DuPont, to just name a few. Now at Microsoft, she leads a team of legal and government affairs, philanthropy and digital crime professionals. Having graduated from University of Turku, Finland, sorry my pronunciation, she has spent most of her career as an ICT professional, combining senior counseling, policy outreach, strategy and leadership. In addition to being a lawyer, she is also a certified business coach with a strong interest in personal growth, leadership, and how to ignite change. Finally, she is also excited about the future of work. And on that note, I would like to invite her to the podium, please. Thank you very much.
Minasan, konnichiwa. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. I'm so delighted to be here today with this lovely city, which is my first trip within the past 2 years that I've lived in Japan. And when I was going through the city, looking at the lovely castle, and I was thinking about the culture, and I was thinking about the work style innovation, and how do you prepare and keep those beautiful elements from the culture and keep driving the change at the same time. And that's what I would like to talk about a little bit today. So I'm sure all of you have faced the reality where you either are working in an environment where you have multiple offices and you have to drive consistent practices between those offices, a new corporate governance, driving the way you do the documentation and so forth. I'm sure you all have faced the need to do more with less. What I would try to emphasize is rather doing smarter than doing more. And by doing smarter, what we emphasize is really learning to say no in order to say yes to something more impactful. And I know it's hard in many cultures to say no, because we do want to serve other people and help them. But in order to really drive that impact, we need to learn to say yes to those that drives the impact. So I will explain a little bit about the journey that Microsoft Japan actually have gone through the past 5 to 6 years. And we really started this journey 6 years ago when the Great East earthquake took place. We had a little bit of spontaneous efforts before that, but that week's an event actually proved how important it is that people can work from different locations and they do not have to come to the office. It was important for the employees to be able to close to their parents, to their families, to their children, and work from home in this context. And we noticed that actually, hey, We were able to drive the business and it didn't stop. That triggered us to actually relook our policy. And at that point, we expanded the policy to allow people to work 3 days a week from outside the office. In 2016, we actually changed that policy with the head of our new local CEO, Hirano-san. And at that point, we actually made it fully flexible. 5 days a week, no court time, no specific reason needed for that. Now, the typical way of people looking telework is about working from home. But work style innovation is actually much more than working from home. It's also about understanding that you have the flexibility to break your day. If you want to come to the office 8 o'clock, you come to the office 8 o'clock. If you want to leave at noon because you have to take care of your private matters for a couple of hours, you take that break. And you continue to work in the office or you continue to work at home. Or, as some of my team members prefer to do, they go to library. And they want to work there because they give them a focus time. It's completely quiet and nobody is disturbing them. So it's more than just working from home. It's about understanding the different styles and the different needs that people have during their lifetime. So we started very slowly with promoting the 1 day in a year together with the government. We started to bring the customers and partners along, all to the extent that in 2016, we had over 800 customers and partners with us to promote the telework month. Koike-san started the movement this year to promote telework also in Tokyo area with the July telework day. So there are multiple different elements coming from the government as well promoting this. But again, it's more than 1 week, it's more than 1 month, it's more than 1 day. It's a practice that you need to have daily basis, every week, every month, throughout the year. Now, people often ask the question from us, so what is it that we actually have learned over the 5-6 years? And it's, I think, relatively easy to give the numbers on what's the benefits for the company. So one of the things is that we have better life balance for the employees, which we actually can measure through our annual poll results. Equally, we reduce the working hours, which is very much in the government interest as well. As Mr. Procter & Gamble, Stanislav well pointed out, there's a movement going on tracking the hours, which I feel is actually going to put at risk the whole work style innovation initiative. That, however, there is a good intent behind the government's effort because they're concerned about the people and how much they use time in the office. That's where the call for action for us in the industry actually becomes. We as leaders need to care about the employees, not that the government has to point that out. We have actually increase in women who return back from the maternity leave because of the flexible work style. We reduce the number of papers in the office. I'm using this one, I don't use the paper. We reduce the number of need to travel. Thanks to the Skype and ability to call in, I don't have to go to the headquarters constantly, which is in Seattle, USA. I can participate in different meetings through the phone and the video conference. Now, our mission is really to empower every person on the planet to achieve more. And I would put on this, to really achieve their personal best. When we are driving the work style innovation, there are different ways of doing this. There's no one size fits for all. And I think that's important for every company to recognize. But what's important, what I feel everybody should implement in their corporation is the culture. Is your corporate culture based on trust? Is your corporate culture based providing the safety and environment where people can actually raise their voice, share their ideas and concerns? Are your leaders taking care of the people? Because this is what you need to have in place in order to really implement the work style innovation. Further, you need to take a look at how is it that you are actually compensating your employees? Are you actually incentivizing them to stay in the office for long hours? Or are you actually incentivizing them to actually do the productive, more impactful work? Further, are you actually giving them the responsibility area so that they know what is expected from them? Or do they actually come to the office in order to hear the orders that they have to do on a daily basis? So you really have to take a look at the basics in order to get this started. And most importantly, we feel this is not for the minority. This is for everyone. And the movement starts from the majority. This is not about the minority changing their behaviors. This is about the majority changing their behaviors. So we really want to call the action for people. And I always like to end my presentation with one of my favorite quotes from John F. Kennedy, which is, "Don't ask what the country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." The same goes to the leaders. What can do you for your employees? Thank you.
So you can see it wasn't just wishful thinking to have an inspiring panel. Okay, so thank you very much for sharing that with us. Susanna, so as our second speaker, and I think hitting some similar tones probably, we have Mr. Kazuo Matsuyama-san, President and CEO of Sato Holdings Corporation. He is part of the core team that helped Sato's presence in the global market. An industry veteran of 34 years, he's joined Sato in 2001 and since held various positions internationally as well, in Sato's global office in Singapore, as well as in headquarters in Japan. Prior to that, he has held marketing positions at Procter & Gamble, Far East, and Alcon Japan. So many Procter & Gamble people in this building. He holds a master's in management from J.L. Kellogg Graduate School of Management, Northwestern University, and a Bachelor of Arts in English and American Literature from Ayama Gakuen University. Now, bringing both rich Japanese and international work and leadership experience to the panel, I would like to introduce Kazuo Matsuyama-san to the podium, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Great pleasure to be here today. I appreciate everybody knows Microsoft, and every one of you knows McDonald's, but that's probably not the case with Sato. So let me begin by briefly introducing to you what kind of company we are. Our business is Auto ID, and Auto ID stands for Automatic Identification and Data Capture. So what is it? Actually, we provide infrastructure to IT systems. We provide data to IoT, Internet of Things, by using technology such as barcode, QR, RFID, biometrics, and voice and image recognition. And we are the pioneer in this industry, and we are one of the global leaders today. So now, getting back to work style innovation, all right? This shows the transformation and the trials and errors we've gone through in the last 25 years. Until 1990s, our company was a product-driven company, and our work style was very traditional Japanese company. Okay, when we started to change our business model from a product-driven to solution-oriented company, we realized that it was very, very important to unleash the power of employees. And then that was the start of our trial and errors. So as you can see from this, we've provided about 4 phases. In 1990s, the first top-down intervention was done. And to promote women in the board of directors, women in management, and women in leadership positions. But as a repercussion, as you can see, dropouts. Okay, the number of dropouts increased. So top-down intervention didn't really work to enhance the work effectiveness. And then we thought about how to improve the working environment, and we reviewed the systems and policies. And we implemented a lot of regulations and rules and new systems. And that contributed to making the work more efficient and easier for many employees to work, but we realized that that didn't really help in driving the motivation of all the employees. That was a repercussion. And then, 6 years ago, when I was promoted, when I took this position as the president and CEO of the company, I decided that this should not be just a HR policy. It should be part of the corporate strategy. So we implemented this as part of the corporate strategy and started to roll out what we call best practices across the board. Okay? Great, but that ended up with gaps among individuals. I would say that approach worked among 70 to 80% of the employees, but we were left with 20% who were still reluctant or somehow resistant or opposed to the kind of change the company is really trying to go through. Now we are in the phase of what we call empowering individual ownership. We are taking integrated action approach, which I'm going to talk about a little later. And then let me go to the next slides. So our key learning through the 25-year trials and errors is that there's one very clear obstacle in Japan, which I think is very, very obvious: cookie or air, mood. I would say I would try to define this as a hidden pressure to conform, particularly in hierarchical organization. And it is the leader's job to first clear the air and change the air so that everybody feel that, wow, the company is seriously considering, achievement of this one. But if you close your eyes and don't take any actions about this key obstacle, nothing is going to dramatically change, I can assure you. In Japan, let me add. Okay, and work style innovation, I would like to talk about 3 current best approaches or practices. The first one is integrated actions, and second one is self-initiated male leaders action group, and third one is Teiho. And this is a little bit difficult to understand, but let me try. Let me elaborate further on each one of them. First, integrated action program. The lower portion of this slide shows what we call integrated approach, where we were integrating, putting together best practices in diversity activities, wellness management, and corporate values promotion and work style optimization. And what is more important is the upper portion of this slide, which is, okay, at the end of the day, what is it that we are trying to drive? We are trying to drive customer value, right? Because that's how we can build business. And who's going to drive customer value? Who's going to create customer value? We realize that, of course, it's got to be our employees. And if our employees are not motivated to create value for the customers, there's something wrong. So our intention behind all these work style innovation is the integrated approach that enables motivated workforce who will then work hard to create customer value, and then we can kind of create virtuous cycle, right? This is one of the current best approaches and practices that we are implementing at Sato. So not one of them independently, each one of the actions are very important, I would say, but when they are combined together, put into context and provide the meaning for the employees, and then employees feel motivated to make a difference. And yeah, let me go to the next slide, the second current best practice. Well, this, I think, is a case story of a dramatic turnaround within an organization. You can see before and after, right? And this is our R&D organization. And in the past, until about 5-6 years ago, R&D was the worst in diversity and work style optimization innovation. Today, they are the role model, one of the highest driven organizations and also highest motivations. And they are even driving corporate-wide diversity programs. So what actually happened? We appointed one of the reluctant senior managers, on purpose. So we decided, hey, diversity in work style innovation is so important, and R&D, there's something wrong, it is not progressing. So can I ask you to be the leader? But at the same time, I trust your judgment. So we are empowering you. You can make your own decisions, but please listen to your people. Listen with listening hands, with listening ears, and then you will come up with the best, whatever the best decisions and actions for your organizations. And after a while, here's a copy of the newspaper article. Their initiative was featured in one of the nationwide newspaper, Nikkei, and also last week by Asahi. They were very surprised, but because he himself admitted that he was one of the worst senior managers. But now he said, after seriously trying to understand the needs and what we call honne, the real voices of female workers and managers, he understood that his understanding was very, very wrong. So he decided to change everything, and they took the initiative to be the change catalyst. And finally, about Teiho, for further details, please go to our website, because I would need 3 hours to explain. In the interest of time, in a nutshell, this is a proposal system, okay? Everybody, every employee, every day must write one proposal and statement of action as a next step. And this is not, as you can see, this is not anonymous, right? This is not anonymous like SNS. So I can see everybody's face and what is it that they are writing. And this handwriting is mine. So every day I get to see several, proposals from each one of them, and I decided to be analog. Okay, I don't use IT systems here. I write my comment and then put it on our special website portal, and then this is made to be seen by every one of the employees of Sato. So they feel that the company is very serious, and these people feel that they are empowered, so they can take more initiative to change. And this is everything, but before I close, what Teiho means is participation by all. But Teiho is not just about everything that we are using within the company, what we call management by participation by all. So I have a very short video which I would like to show you. This is more like a group type of workshop which we are implementing on a global basis. Guess what? They are discussing corporate values and also work style innovation. And this is a global group, about 150 people. We get together as one group and decided to do this workshop. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cass, for this very passionate account of a quite long history in Sato Holdings of all these initiatives. Thank you very much. We're going to hear a bit more about it a little later. So now let's get to our third and final speaker for the next 10 minutes before we have a bit more of an open discussion. So may I introduce Kenji Miyashita-san, Vice President Corporate Relations and at McDonald's & Company in Japan. Having graduated from Keio University with a bachelor's degree in commerce, he first joined Procter & Gamble Far East Inc. in, Japan, 1985, and went on to have international assignments in sales in the company's Greater China and Northeast Asia regions. In 2007, he then joined McDonald's Company Japan as Senior Vice President, Chief Operating Officer. He moved into corporate relations and is now also the director and vice president of McDonald's Holding Company, Japan. Furthermore, he serves as a chairman of Nihon Hamburg and Hamburger Association. I love saying this, I'm German, Hamburger. And a board member of Japan Food Service Association. Please welcome to the podium Mr. Kenji Miyashita-san to share with us how McDonald's company is promoting work style reform hand in hand with their employees. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to be here and glad to see all the friends from the P&Gs today. I saw you, Makino-san, again. Actually, this is not a really success story to share with you. This is a kind of learning journey we have been facing since business crisis in 2014-15. My theme is really how we can leverage the business crisis and to convert it to the opportunity to create a great culture of the winning, and also how the work style reform supported those culture changes. We embarked on the diversity and inclusion journey in 2008 with the strong leadership of the former CEO, Harada-san. He set the very strong, aggressive goal to raise the female representation to the 50%. Then there's we also divided our journey into 3 phases. The first one is the initiate, the first initial 4 years journey. Second, 2 years, and those are the 3 major important steps. And then when we joined, actually I joined the McDonald's. The female representation of the restaurant managers and the managerial positions only 6% and 7% respectively. Now we have 24% representation in the female restaurant managers and 17% in the managerial position. But as we go through those journeys, there's a lot of the issues we faced. Lots of female managers got a very aggressive role in the projects and the ongoing organization, but many people felt those important mission was actually given without sufficient trainings and development of personnel. And also a fear of the some unfairness emerged among the male employees. It's kind of common issues we are facing in the journey of the diversity. Then we switched our focus in the phase 2 to have more engagement with employees, to listen to what they are thinking, and then we do lots of networking and the forum and education session, this one. Then in 2014, the tragedy happened. As you may know, there is a massive media coverage about the China chicken issues and the foreign object in 2014-15. Then our business really was hit by those media coverage. And then we lost not only the sales and profit, and also we lost the employees' morale. We also lost lots of employees itself. And we were so depressed. And then we came up with the idea we should have the very strong revitalization plan with some culture changes. Then we formed the very strong top-line team, and also developed the recovery business plan first. Those are 4 pillars of the revitalization plan of the business itself. The first and foremost, we listen to customers. My boss, Sara Casanova, visited the 47 prefectures to see face-to-face with the families and the employees. They listen to what they want to McDonald's. Then we developed the customer-focused action in menus, values, customer experience, and also food safety and qualities. The second pillar is the investing in the restaurant building itself. Our building looks very obsolete. Our remodel cycle has been prolonged so long. So the customer feel they are really enjoying the experience of McDonald's. So we have heavily invested in the renovation of the restaurant in the past 3 years. Then third one is the localizing our operations. We restructured our organization from centralized decision making to the localized decision making by creating 3 regional structures. Then finally, we also did lots of cost saving and resource allocation to the based on the priority of the business growth. Then business has started, but we are still struggling. What kind of culture we can create? How we can trigger those culture change? And then, very interestingly, our culture change journey has kicked off by one young employee's proposal to the CEO. One day, the young female manager with 4 years of experience with the company sent an email to Sara Casanova saying, I'm looking at the current organization and people are so depressed. We are not working together towards the one directions, and the work is very slow. We are not so productive. We are not providing a good service to our restaurant managers and crews. So then Sarah picked up those call and had a lunch with her and empowered her to create the team of the group, to create the cultures. And then those project team organized, workshop by involving all 600 headquarter employees, and then discussed what kind of change they want to deliver. And then did a massive voting session. Then we came up with 4 pillars of the guiding principle, such as be customers, go gemba, work together, and act now. And then those culture was really supported with all the employees, and then supported by the restaurant manager as well. Then we think this is not enough. Our speed of change of culture should be accelerated. Then we established a new project of the work style change called Socrates. I'm being a sponsor of this project since 2016, and then this really aims to improve the productivities and collaborations and communication speed. Those project consists of 2 elements of change. One is the work style itself. Second is the workplace itself. And then we come up with 5 kind of protocols to change the way we work, including the activity-based work, paperless, and also clean office, securities, and telework. And then we also the massive. Actually, we have just started the renovation of the office in the Shinjuku right now, and then the new office is be utilized from the first week of the October through the end of the March next year. And then to do that, we did a lot of benchmarking with the excellent company, including Microsoft, Google, and Japanese manufacturers. And I personally visited the 15 companies to see the project leader of the work style change, HR, and also workplace solution team, to better understand what is the key business factors, key successful factors for those companies, and we reapplied those learning to our culture change and work style change. So culture change and work style change is a long journey. We are still in the just beginning of the journey. I'd like to share a couple of the learning which I've got so far. Actually, every company has the tough time and crisis. And we are lucky having those big crises, but we really leverage those crises into the opportunities. So really encourage you to take a look at the some emerging big crisis you can fully leverage for the culture change. Second one is even one voice. You can also listen to the one voice, which is really critical. And if we didn't have those email from one young female, our culture change has not been started even for now. So those kind of listening to the employees carefully is one of another learnings. And third one is learn from others. Thanks to the partners, including Microsoft, we also learn lots of insight from the companies who have been successfully changing the work style. Employee engagement, leveraging IT systems, having flexible HR systems, and so creating climate and the leadership demonstrations, and branding, employee branding. Those are the key kind of factors we learned from those companies. We also learned from the employees. We did some research among the employees, what they are struggling, what kind of resource and the tools and space they need for the collaborations and productivity improvement. We also learned from the global subject matter expert. In McDonald's, we have a workplace solution team in the headquarters, Chicago. We also have the strong HR guys who really leading the culture change as well. So we also reapply the key learning from them as well. Then I think there's 3 factors. We haven't been successful yet, but I think this could be the successful factor once we achieve those missions. One is the strong leadership of the CEOs. And second is the, we leveraging the, champions, change leaders among each functions and departments, to buy in. And third one is, you should create a synergy with the workplace solution as well. Since I have only 30 seconds to finish, this is a kind of learning, you have faced lots of barriers, obstacles when you do the change of the cultures and the work style. There's 2 aspects of the barriers. One is the organization, the other personal. With the strong leadership of the CEO, we can solve the more than 60% or 70% of those obstacles, especially in the organization side. But you need to have a strong change leaders among your workers, even in the entry level, such as champions. If you have a strong buying process with the champions, you can solve, left-hand side, personal issues, almost all. Then I think, still we are working on those journeys, and I hope I can come back 2 years from now to share the progress and share more learning with you guys. With that, I finish my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Kenji. Thank you all three of you for sharing your, well, very different but yet somehow intertwined, seemingly similar accounts of your journeys. And it's funny that it's so such a broad approach, but it's been labeled one little word: work style reform, right? And it's basically national propaganda, you could say, since last year, when with the appointment of a cabinet minister to that topic, simply devoted to that topic. So we've heard a lot about the challenges, and I don't want to spend much time on challenges because we've heard a lot this morning, even before our panel. But I find it fascinating that all of you have a very it's a great insight. You come from the outside in, having worked abroad, and now from the inside out. You've seen the challenges that we have to overcome, really to make a difference in order to go from quantity to quality of work. And I think with that, raise productivity and employee engagement. What I would like to focus on more is, how do you get the buy-in from your people? So, you've all mentioned, and I love what you said, Susanna, about it has to start with the majority, not with the minority. So you've shared some learnings, and it's always difficult. We hear, if you try and get people involved, specifically men, how are you able to really get everyone involved, a wider group who is, regardless of age, gender, hierarchy even, so that it's not just a little project for working women. So this is the first part of the question, really. How do you get a wider group of people involved? And then secondly, on that note, how do you then measure the impact of that? How you get them involved? What's the feedback loops that you have in place with these people? And that would be lovely. Again, there's no, feel free if you want to go first, Susan, since you've already started mentioning that. And then whoever wants to speak.
All right. Maybe as an example, I can reflect my past 2 years. So my team is fully Japanese. I have conservative lawyers, as one would think that lawyers are very, very conservative. And if lawyers can do this, anybody can do this. So I think it starts from the leader. So in my case, it starts from me. And I need to first understand what motivates my employees and my team members. And for each and every one of them, it's a little bit different story. So I need to adjust my style for each and every one so that they can actually bring their best into the workforce. But I have to then show how I'm actually working outside the office as well, how I'm taking a break, how I'm leaving earlier and being productive and focused on the impact and not on the hours. And it requires a lot of repetition. It's not something that happens overnight. You just have to persistently work through with every individual in your team and recognize what makes them to tick and motivate. And that's where it starts. It starts from your heart.
I think it's easy to get a buy-in from 20% of the people, 30% of the people anytime, right? And in between we have like 60% of the people. It's not so challenging to try to convince them this is a matter of trust. Okay, if you can build trust with majority of the organization, it's going to work. With that being said, the remaining 20% is a problem, because they have, for one reason for another, something that's hidden in their heart that prevents them from changing their behavior. So it's easy as a leader of the organization, okay, let's forget about those 20% and let's focus on the good 80%. Then you are destroying trust of the organization. So I cannot say I'm ignoring the 20%. I will say consistently, I'm not going to give up, okay? So I will take approach individually until each one of them changes. So that's the kind of message, and also patience, because it's time taking. But that is what it really counts as far as I'm concerned.
As I shared the champions, on top of champions, we did the two things. One is, I personally met the individuals and group of people who are resisting the change. And they normally don't directly communicate to me, but they communicate through the somehow, very safe channel. So we listened, who is saying what. Then I created meeting to talk, and it was the first approach. And then second one is we also did organizational research. We call the people survey twice a year, and you look at the verbatim from the research, you can see the hints, ideas, why they are resisting, why they are emotionally affected, they are reacting to those changes. Then we try to remove the barrier. For example, some employee says, "Oh, I don't have a resource of IT to get easily connected." So I've introduced Skype for Business from Microsoft. People also say, "Oh, we are not delegated. I don't have I'm authorization to make a decision quickly." So I said we change the delegation of authority to increase the amount of the budget authorization to the directors and the VP above. So those are by listening to those verbatim from the employees, it's really another way to remove the barrier to buying.
Thank you. Did you want to add something on that?
Can I just quickly,
Yes.
I don't want to advertise our products, but I'll mention the Skype because we mentioned the Skype, but I think this is very psychological to think about it. So when I started with my team, every meeting invite must include the Skype or calling details. It's a psychological message to everybody that I can call in. So little things actually matter.
And I'm glad actually you mentioned that as well, because it shows it's not just about a mindset change or top-down approach, leadership change, culture change. It has to affect the sometimes inefficient work practices on the ground level that people just have become a norm, so to speak. So from listening to the many facets and the different levels of your organizations, it is clear that work style reform is not just a one-off isolated project, something you can address in a meeting, tick it off, and sort of say, okay, we've done that, we've done our bit. Many things on many levels will have to be coming together and complement each other for these things to work. Timing is crucial as well, and sometimes crisis can be the biggest opportunity. So it's timing is definitely of the essence as well. So from your experience now and from your learnings, before we later open the floor, could you you've mentioned some of them, of course, could you sum up and really say to those organizations out there who want to be more proactive with work style reform and really start looking at this more seriously, what would you recommend to them? In other words, what are really the key success factors from your learning, from your journey, that you can see that really make the difference and make it sustainable and create real win-win scenarios, both for employees as well as the organization? If you would like to start.
I think, to see is to believe, the one action you should be encouraged, to organize a benchmarking trip to the successful companies. I personally visited the 15 companies. I also took the group of champions to the company as well to actually see how they are working differently from ours actually. I was fascinated by the Microsoft, how they connect to each other, how they clearly caring the people by having a one-on-one every 2 weeks, and a couple of the talent management conversation every 3 weeks. So those are the quick learning and quick behavior changing activity for us actually.
Well, in my presentation, I gave one example whereby I appointed purposely one of the most reluctant managers to be the leader. Well, believe it or not, it worked. And this is not a single success that I'm talking about. When we established a diversity promotion project, one of the biggest problem organization was a sales organization, biggest and most traditional. And they cared, they didn't really bother about diversity in the first place. So when we decided that who should be leading this entire diversity program, I purposely appointed the head of sales to be the one driving diversity. There was some resistance from the person initially, but as time went by, I think he's really devoting himself to this, and he's really serious about it. And then the field people, the sales organization, entire organization, looking at the change that he's made himself, they are also getting to understand and believe this change may be necessary, and we can also change for the better. So I think this is one way to try to change the organization by pinpointing somebody who is symbolic to the resistance of some initiative we're trying to go through.
I like that example, and it's actually true. I fully sign that. I think it really starts from the culture, because even with the best of the best strategy, the culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if you do not have the culture to support it, you will fail. And for the culture, it needs to start from the leaders. They really have to walk the talk so that people actually believe in what is going to take place. And it's not just a cheap talk per se. There's not one single way of doing this. And trust me, when I'm talking as an ICT company, we've struggled as well. It's not that it's always perfect for us, but we learn from those, and we embrace the culture of learning, that the failure is actually a learning, that people have the safety network to come and bring topics up. So it is the culture.
Thank you. It's interesting that culture comes up again, but also individual champions. So it's somehow top, bottom, and bottom up as well. And it seems there is a connection in, well, what is the multiplier effect of how do you make individuals, like this young girl who came to the meeting and wrote the CEO, look, this can't be this way, we need to have an idea. It's about the communication within the company. So culture is one thing, but how do you, if you have the right culture, how do you make sure this goes down all those levels and people can really feel it and, like you said, get the buy-in and the trust and ownership? What would you say has communication played a role? Timing obviously have, but communication within the company to really spread this, these initiatives from where they originated?
Well, I think it kind of goes with the culture that if you don't communicate, people don't know about it. So it's a repetition. And that is often when you do a change that people forget that it's not just once or twice or 3 times. It's a repetition. Somebody said it's 20 times before a person hears the message. So it really requires a lot of repetition.
I couldn't agree more. And our system, the Teiho system I included in my presentation, started 40 years ago. So this is the 41 years have already passed. And I think the repetition really counts because it proves the level of commitment of the management, not just one of the top management, but also management, in time, like over the past history of the company. So you will repeatedly communicate the key essence of your culture again and again and again. And Teiho is a system where everybody submits one proposal a day, every day. And their reaction from the management and other peers will be shown to everybody. So I think the communication process is not just among a subset of the organizations, but the communication is made transparent. That also enhances the trust and mutual communication, I think.
To add comments, I think we also do the engagement with employees, not on top of the top-down and the bottom-up. For example, to create the 4 guiding principles of culture change, we involved all the employees in the headquarters to develop those 4 actions. To both design, furniture, we also involved all the employees in the headquarters. And then we also, do the 2-way communication session in the staff forum twice a year for the face-to-face communication. Those are the things, by exchanging the catchable, I think we can, do the better communication and understanding and buying from the employees.
Thank you. Yes?
Just adding one thing to make sure that not everybody will like work style innovation, and that's perfectly okay. As long as those who don't like it embrace that the others will. I think that's the acceptance in the culture. So this is not about forcing everybody to work from home. It's just having that diversity and inclusion in the workplace.
Yeah, I think you're saying the right thing. It's about the option, having the option and allowing everyone to choose whatever is best for them. And I think you all also said it, it's not necessarily about forcing people to come on board. I can hear repetition, it could sound like, okay, you just have to tell them more often and then they'll believe it. I think it's more, if I hear you, it's more about a consistent message and not giving up. Just to not give up, not forcing it on people, but look, in the worst case, some people don't like change, they will leave. And if you, like you said, attract the best talent, keep the best talent is the talent that can bring sustainability for your culture and for your strategy going forward. So, very, very, again, very common thread there, and I'm glad that we have that. But we've agreed as well that we didn't want to just focus on having a discussion up here, but really want to open the floor because we have such a wonderful opportunity having 3 guest speakers here. We've got about 10 more minutes left, which would be really nice to have someone from the floor, a couple of questions, to either all of them or any one of them. I think we're all happy to take questions. So we do have a couple of microphones floating, okay, over there and over there. So please, anyone brave enough to have the first question? I did warn you not to be shy.
Thank you very much for your talk. I'm from Panasonic, from Connected Solution Company. I'm Yoshida. I'm from HR of Panasonic Connected Solutions. One of my company members, Yasuyuki Higuchi, he used to work at Microsoft Japan, and he's my president now, my company's president now. We are trying to implement work style reform. So we are trying to implement initiatives. The middle layer management of people, from them, we want to really start to empower to lower down. And you said that we could probably use Skype and then so that decisions can be made more quickly and simply. But middle layer people, middle management are really concerned because their staff will just go ahead and do things and the managers will not know what people are doing. So they're really scared or concerned. So that's a concern that our middle management have. As you implement work style reform in your companies, so how did you address these concerns by the managers? The managers are concerned that the people, when they're empowered, they just go ahead and do things.
Is it possible that because this is the English-speaking panel, is it just possible that we get a brief?
Sorry. Okay.
Can you maybe just summarize what the question is?
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Because, yes.
About how do you relieve the discomfort of the middle managers in giving
Yes. We have to empowerment to from boss to the employees, but boss thinks he is or she is worried about that action. How do you think about that? How to empower properly or to from boss to down the employees?
So the boss is worried about losing control.
Yeah. Thank you for your efforts. Yes, of course.
Yes, let me try. I think this is a real problem, okay? Real opportunity. In our company, we always value trust, okay? But saying it easy, but unless there's trust, there's some discontinued communication between middle management and their subordinates. So we decided to conduct a group-wide training program. This is a training program called the Speed of Trust. And this Speed of Trust training program is provided by Franklin Covey. Okay, so we all, middle management and upper management, and also some junior management, they have to go through this training across the board. And we finished everybody in Japan, and we are now in the process of rolling this out on a global basis, starting in Asia and some countries like United States. So by having this platform, platform of trust, and as one of the modules of this training is the feedback loop. Okay, this is 360 feedback, and not just between the bosses and subordinates, but also from peers and bosses and everybody. So I think having that kind of mindset, and also the fact that company is making sure that every manager and also every junior manager is going to have this training, also helps prevail the company's position and the attitude toward this problem. So we use this as a tool to enhance communication between those middle management and the staff members.
Thank you very much.
I think we're doing two things. It's too early to say this is the success story, but that's just a learning. One is we are doing work style change workshop between both boss and subordinates, so they can come up with ideas how they can trust each other, how you can delegate of the authorities, and they can decide how they can comfortably work together. This is one action we are taking. Second one is when you delegate authority of decision making. We utilize an annual budgeting process for the manager to understand every single detail of the budget they are using, the subordinate are using. For my case, I did a bus review with my boss, Saraka Sonova, last Friday. She asks lots of detailed questions, as I do the same thing to my subordinates. So by not understanding every single detail of actions, you cannot do marunage. Okay.
I'm sorry I missed your question, but I understood you're from Panasonic and you're working maybe with Higuchi-san, so say my best regards to him. Congratulations for having a great leader in your company. I echo partly what the gentlemen were saying here. Trust is something that, when I'm looking trust is that people say that trust needs to be earned. That is partly true, but also I'm also challenging people to think about when do you know you've earned it? Trust is not necessarily economics. Trust either exists or it doesn't exist. And when you change your mindset to approach it differently, it might become easier for people to start the trust-based culture. So it depends on what's the situation in the company, how you want to approach it. It's very important to help people managers to become leaders, so you need training. When an individual contributor becomes a people manager, they easily continue to do in that role as an individual contributor, and they will fail. Because a people manager, people leader is a different role. So they will need help and support on how to do that job. And sometimes you will notice that people who are people leaders, people managers, they are better off by being an individual contributor. And that's not a failure. And I think we need to embrace a culture where individual contributors are equally valued as the people leaders. So recognizing the challenges and building the training and the awareness, giving the support network for those people managers. I'm always saying that when I became a people leader, my team needs to be smarter than me. And I really want to approach it that way, because there's no way I can know all the answers, and I shouldn't. Because if I think I do, then I'm failing miserably. And I'm failing on my team, most importantly. So accepting that fact that I'm not perfect and making my team as the priority.
Thank you very much. We will increase the opportunity to communicate each other. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. I hope you had the answers you were looking for. We have time for maybe one or two more questions from the audience. So if there is somebody else, if you want to say it in Japanese, we now have the ability, so please feel free, don't be shy to say either in Japanese or in English. That would be great.
Hi, thank you for the speech, and I'm Arago from Procter & Gamble. And yes, I have a question regarding, I really love the story how it's not just top to bottom, but it's really bottom up, and how you try to get the comments from employees. But I think it really starts from when employees are very active and when they really care to change the company. So for me, I think all this work-life reform really starts from engaging employees, that they really care to make a change, that they're really willing to commit to the company. And my question is that, is there anything particular that you do to increase sense of belonging among employees? Because I think it's important to get voices from employees, but those voices come when employees are truly engaged and are willing to make change. So I would like to know if there's anything particular, again, to increase sense of belonging, or any engagement that you do in your company.
So that's a great question and a challenging question at the same time. I would say your company needs to have a mission. It needs to have a sense of purpose and a mission. Why does your company exist? And we've been going through that dialogue at Microsoft. Why does Microsoft exist? Because once we found that mission, our employees can take that on board much more easily when there is this why. The sense of purpose, where we are driving, where we are heading to, why are we heading to that direction? And then everybody finds their own journey to get towards that direction. So it's the sense of purpose. I think you well pointed that out.
Yes, I agree. And also along the same line, I think we have to do corporate value training and sessions consistently, so that everybody understands where the company is going and what the basis of values for the company. And at the same time, we have to ask, as a manager, we have to ask ourselves always, are we really paying attention to every and each one of my people? My company, for example, have about 5,000 people, so it's impossible for me to know everybody by name, but I'm still trying. One of the methods is a Teiho system you've seen, but actually by trying to pay attention to not to somebody, okay, manager in this department, but Mr. or Miss who, okay, who's doing what and what kind of values that he or she holds, okay, by trying to understand, then we can get a higher sense of engagement and higher sense of belonging to the company. So I think it's mutual. I'm trying, but at the same time, I'm expecting and hoping that employees will do the same, not just to me, but also among themselves, so that they can create a sense of family in a good meaning.
I think McDonald's has been doing lots of the activity for creating the sense of belonging to the one great brand. The first one is the, I think, customer engagement tools. You know, we just launched a new app called Kodo 2 years ago. So that each customer provided the feedback to the restaurant as soon as she experienced. So by hearing customers, you know, some of the claim, some of the, you know, complimentary comment, we are, you know, we actually created the sense of belonging to work for the customers as one team. We're also doing lots of crew engagement. We have 2 customers, real customers and crews in the restaurants. So we did an annual you know, competition of the crews, you know, in the local basis and national basis. All the, you know, employees, including the you know, field, you know, management and those headquarter management, participating those each level of the competition and they celebrate success. There are lots of the, you know, recognition program. By engaging with the crews, we also share the sense sense of belonging to the company and also, you know, kind of corporate value to treat the people as one of the most precious assets. And then those, you know, employee, you know, we also had an annual national restaurant managers and owner operators meeting twice a year. We have 3,000, you know, people there, including restaurant managers and also headquarter staffs and also franchisees, business partners. We share the, you know, some common values and also the, you know, brand imperatives. And then, you know, last time, you know, when we had this meeting this January, we created the, you know, videos, music videos, by asking the 1,000, 2,000 crews and the suppliers and headquarters employees to make music, which is a McDonald's song. By the way, I'm really missed to share because we are limited time today. But next time, I promise you to share those videos. It's really engaging, and we also create one common slogan called the Power of One. In every message CEO said, we use the Power of One as a common message. All that almost more than 200 times for 2 years. This is another way to communicate our sense of belonging from the top down.
You're very lucky that I didn't know about the song, otherwise I would have asked to perform. Thank you very much, all of you. I think we only have a minute or two left, so probably, unless there's a really, really urgent, very quick question. 3, 2, 1, no, okay. Oh, is there? Okay. Very quick. Very quick, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your great speech. I'm working from the Eli Japan. So my question is, from your old experience, what is the future, the biggest challenge towards how we can make a transformation for the working style? Maybe the journey is still continuing for your station. So for us, so we would like to understand. So what is the next and then challenge or the goal?
Just very briefly, I would say already today, but definitely what needs to be addressed is skilling. Skilling of the workforce, and also in terms of the new level of education. So both have to be addressed in order to be prepared for the future. Skilling of the employees.
I think it boils down to getting people, each one of them, self-driven. Okay. I don't want to be told by somebody to do something, okay? I think this is a human nature. If the change is from within, and if it's self-driven, people don't have to be told to do a lot of things. I think they can learn, continue to learn. But we are not at that stage yet, and we will continue to make efforts so that more and more people will behave in that manner.
I think future challenge should be how we can share the common level of understanding of the diversity and inclusion with business partners and the franchisees. They are the part of the system, but the level of the consciousness is totally differentiated from us, from the employee, from the headquarters. So next challenge is how we can involve them as the same, change leaders, change partners.
Yes. So is that? You have to, okay,
thank
great.
You very much.
So thank you very much for all three panelists. Again, I'm sure you are equally grateful and inspired by this. So thank you very much. Put your hands together.